We didn't start this war, but under President Trump, we are finishing it. Their war on Americans has become our retribution against their Ayatollah and his death cult. If you kill Americans, if you threaten Americans anywhere on earth, we will hunt you down without apology and without hesitation, and we will kill you.
America's war on Iran's terrorist regime is widening as the military enters the third day of airstrikes after killing Ayatollah Khamenei on Saturday. Iran is retaliating with attacks on American bases across the region, and the Pentagon now is deploying more troops to the Middle East. Welcome to the Big Money Show. I'm Taylor Riggs, along with my co-hosts, Dagan McDowell, Brian Brenberg, Jackie DeAngelis, and with us for the 2 entire hours today, our brand new Fox Business contributor, Marcus Lemonis. Really great to have you as part of the Fox family as well.
Thank you.
So we want to get to the breaking news of the hour. The conflict spreading right now with the Lebanese terror group Hezbollah trading fire with Israel. The Pentagon expects a challenging road ahead to achieve all of America's goals.
This is not a single overnight operation. The military objectives that CENTCOM and the Joint Force have been tasked with will take some time to achieve, and in some cases will be difficult and gritty work. We expect to take additional losses, and as always, we will work to minimize U.S. losses.
Let's go straight to Edward Lawrence at the White House with the latest.
Yeah, Taylor, President Donald Trump saying that Operation Epic Fury is moving faster than the U.S. thought it would. He told Bret Baier this morning that they took out 49 of the top leaders in Iran, including the Supreme Leader, in one strike as they ate breakfast. Now, the president right now at a Medal of Honor ceremony where he's honoring the 4 American soldiers so far who have been killed in this operation. Now, the president warning that we may see more casualties.
We warned Iran not to make any attempt to rebuild at a different location because they were unable to use the ones that we so powerfully blew up. But they ignored those warnings and refused to cease their pursuit of nuclear weapons.
The president felt he had to act. Earlier, the Secretary of War stating this will not be an ongoing endless war. He says their goals are clear and laser focused. The president adding the next steps towards a free society is up to the Iranian people. Now, oil prices are rising because of this uncertainty. Shipping companies have suspended operations going through the Strait of Hormuz. 20 to 30% of the oil ships around the globe slips through that strait. The Iranian drone also hit Saudi Arabia's largest oil facility. The Iranian Navy remains a top target for the U.S. because of oil.
Destroy Iranian offensive missiles, destroy Iranian missile production, destroy their navy and other security infrastructure, and they will never have nuclear weapons. We're hitting them surgically, overwhelmingly, and unapologetically. With every passing day, our capabilities get stronger and Iran's get weaker.
And taking out the Navy a top priority as Iran is now lashing out with drones and rockets to neighboring countries in this. The fear is that Iran will mine the Strait of Hormuz, and that could permanently cause a problem for shipping oil around the globe. So the U.S. making that one of the priorities. Back to you.
Edward Lawrence, thank you so much. Jackie, I want to come to you. I've had the pleasure of picking your brain in the last hour. Your thoughts on, I think, sort of what this moment means. We'll get to oil. We'll get to the equity markets. We'll get to the way this impacts America later. But sort of big picture, this is a big moment. You've talked about your family ties. Your mother was from Iran. Trump just coming out, and saying that Iran refused to cease its pursuit of nuclear weapons. And this was our last best chance to strike.
And I think that we have to remember that. So I'm so glad that you used those words of his to kick us off here, because we were watching this unfold, and I was saying that I thought he was laying the groundwork with the talks in Geneva. Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff went over. He was laying the groundwork and in all good faith giving them an opportunity to try to arrive at some sort of peaceful resolution to this, but that would require stopping with the nuclear program. And he wanted the American people to see, and the international stage to see as well, that he was open to negotiations. But when you twist his arm and give him no choice and don't acquiesce in any way, then he's got to do what he has to do. And that is what happened this weekend. So going after Iran is the nuclear program, it's national security, it's global national security. It's about the Iranian people, giving them the backing that they need and the opportunity to be able to step up and take their country back and achieve some freedom at long last. As I'm watching this play out, I am very impressed by the extreme precision, the detailed operation that not only took out the supreme leader, but President Trump is saying 49 other key commanders. There was unprecedented intelligence on the ground, unprecedented cooperation between U.S. forces and Israeli forces to be able to carry this out. The president is looking at everything right now, and he realizes that he's got a small window of time to complete this operation. He's talking about a time frame of 4 to 5 weeks. I think with what I've seen so far, that's possible. And I also think, as bad as the situation looks right now, when you see Iran lashing out, as you mentioned, at all the neighboring territories, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, that is desperation. This is a snake whose head has been chopped off. There's internal chaos. The right hand is not talking to the left hand, and going after, the so-called allies in the region is just a last attempt in their desperate effort here. So I think if the United States continues a maximum pressure campaign, it will achieve what it is looking for, which was ultimately the ousting of this regime and for the people to be able to step in and decide who they want the next leader to be.
Marcus, I want your thoughts. Secretary Hegseth has repeatedly said this is not us going in for regime change. The president, even in that video posted over the weekend, said, to Jackie's point, this is your time to rise up. This is your moment. I think people in America are wondering, have a lot of questions about duration. To Jackie's point, is this 4 or 5 weeks? This is very different from Operation Midnight Hammer, where it seemed to be, kind of a day in, a day out sort of thing. The equity in the oil markets, I think, are trying to understand duration in this moment, sort of what this means for people at home. Your thoughts?
I am, as a Lebanese-born now citizen in America, to see this type of decisive action taken has been monumental for me. Because it says we want you to be free, we want you to be able to survive. We're not trying to take anything. Yes, there's an underpinning around the oil and the supply side of it, and we'll get to that, as you said, in a minute. But I think this is a big moment in history. For my whole life, I'm 52 years old. I've watched wars in the Middle East go on and on and on. I appreciated the president being precise about time, whether it's 5 weeks or 3 weeks, it's not forever. I appreciated the fact that there were off-ramps provided over and over prior to and still to this day, off-ramps for Iran and the leadership to be able to stop the devastation. I worry for the Iranian people who were there who may lose their lives. Obviously, for the Americans, they're going to lose their lives. But there are off-ramps being provided. And for me, this is a big day in the history of our country.
Brian, you made a really interesting comment to me earlier as well. You said this is what America does best. I was talking to you about a video I had seen about a fighter jet totally escaping enemy fire that was coming. It gives me chills. It was astounding. And you looked at me and you said, America, this is like what we were born to do.
Well, this is what the government's supposed to be good at. It's supposed to be good at an operation like this. We were talking about it in the context. We have so many debates over the past years about the government in healthcare, the government education, the government whatever. This is the indispensable function of the federal government to provide for national security. And so I am with you to hear about the precision of the strikes, the planning, the intelligence, the competence of our uniformed officers is awesome. Jack, you mentioned the word groundwork. And my thoughts when I saw this news and as I was following the news went back to May of 2025. We were all sitting around this desk talking about the president going to the Middle East. And you can remember the conversations we had. He was talking about $2 trillion of investment. And there was all sorts of sidelight conversations, if you recall that. Like, why didn't he put Israel on this trip? Or is it really $2 trillion? Blah, 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 blah. Okay. What was he doing in May of 2025, about 3 months after he took office for the second time? He was putting in place relationships that I think without question, he knew he'd be drawing on right now. And think about this moment, okay? So Israel and the United States attack Iran. In the last 5 decades, if that were to have happened, the folks around Iran would have immediately said, we are against this. We line up with our ally Iran. This is unjust. What happened now? The Gulf states came together and they said, we will hit Iran back aggressively if they continue what they're doing right now. It is an absolute revolution in foreign affairs. And it was probably born before May of 2025 last year. But when that happened, I think all of us missed the real significance of what the president was doing.
It started with the Abraham Accords.
And even further back, right?
Dagan, I think what is, as I sort of shift and look at ramifications within the oil markets, I have WTI at 71, Brent at 77. You're up 5 to 10% on the day, but I'm actually maybe surprised that it isn't up more. That in this moment, given the relationships that Brian has set out, and again, depending on duration in the Strait of Hormuz that we can get into, does this feel relatively contained from that market perspective? How are you thinking about this?
Very contained. So there is and will be no energy shock to the world. There will be no oil shock. There will be no recession. And I always look at the barrels per day of production and export. So if you look at Iran's export numbers, and it still was exporting crude. It was roughly, and it had been in decline ever since President Trump returned to office because the sanctions were being laid back on, and so the amount of oil that was being exported out of Iran almost solely to China had been declining. So in January, Iran was exporting roughly 1.5 million barrels of oil a day. Some of the estimates said it was closer to 1.4. And why is this important? Because oil, it's a global commodity and it is fungible. So whatever, however many barrels are leaving ports in Iran, it factors into how many barrels we have to produce and export here. So let's say 1.5 million barrels. Let's look at Venezuela. There might be some tightening of supplies in the short run, but because of the takeout of Maduro by the Trump administration, because now of the freeing of the oil industry in Venezuela, we had a Spanish oil giant, Repsol, saying that Venezuelan oil output could jump 50% in 12 months. That is roughly 1 to 1.5 million barrels a day. And we've heard the same from the Energy Secretary, Chris Wright. He had said that oil output in Venezuela could grow by the end of this year to 40%. I would put those numbers at roughly 1.4 million barrels a day. That is the equivalent of what Iran was exporting out of its country. So that's a wash. That is no impact, and I think that you see that showing up in the price of oil today. Javier Blas at Bloomberg, one of the great oil analysts, said the Chinese foreign minister has been on the phone with his Iranian counterpart. Who buys more Qatari LNG than anyone else? China. And Qatar shut its largest LNG export plant, the largest in the world. Who buys more Persian Gulf oil than anybody else? China. Who buys all of Iranian oil? China. So it's hard on China, our adversary, not hard on us. And look at manufacturing. It's
yes, we can talk about that.
Expanding 2 months in a row. We are in a manufacturing boom. If you look at trucking and whatever munitions we destroy over there, I don't like this, but we make more here, and that is actually economically.
Dagan, I appreciate you recognizing the Venezuelan piece because you don't see a lot about it. But there's, I think, a bigger issue than just production. And if you look at the Gulf region, the issue now is the maritime insurance that's being pulled boat after boat. And so it's not whether the strait is closed or open or you have insurance companies saying, we are going to pool our things. And so that whole the whole supply side is really getting messed up more than just closing it off. I don't think production's the issue. I worry about how this insurance piece is going to play out over the next couple of weeks, next couple of months, and what that's going to do to prices and what that's going to do to the consumer back here.
Well, I think the oil market tells you what it's doing to it, and it's not up that much.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to add, U.S. production is near records at 13.7 million barrels a day. That's roughly 1 million barrels more than we were doing under Joe Biden, so that helps too. And I think China is really the one that's going to choke here because they've got to go and actually pay retail for oil now if they can't get it from Iran. And they were buying half of Venezuela's production, which we now have taken back and taken control over. So they're the real loser here. I hear you about the strait, but also as you cut off the economic sort of center for Iran, which is their oil revenue, they're going to collapse even faster.
Goes into a good note I read this morning that for every $10 a barrel increase, it translates into maybe 30 cents increase at the cost of the pump. So I think for Americans at home trying to understand price per barrels versus what it means at the pump, that was a good analogy that I read. I want to talk about airlines quickly. Most of them earlier this morning, all lower. That looks like it continues. United Airlines is the most impacted of the full service carriers. That region accounts for 1.6% of their capacity. American Airlines is next. 0.5% of their March capacity was in the Middle East. Delta at the end, they have a single route, JFK to Tel Aviv. That's about 0.4% of their overall business for that month. So you're seeing airlines, I think, to the downside, just trying to assess what cancellation flight means for today, for the coming days. Again, we'll see how the weeks evolve. Coming up, hours after Anthropic is sidelined, OpenAI lands a major Pentagon deal. The race for AI dominance heats up when big money returns.